The need to come up with this initiative of women empowerment in agriculture was inevitable, given the need for food security and then for human capital development generally. Union Bank was very heads-on, and they had the foresight to come behind this initiative and then sponsor it.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. And you're welcome to Gardner Callaway Farms for our Women's Empowerment Program, which we're doing in conjunction with Union Bank and with HIDA Foundation. So the whole idea of this program is to further educate and create more awareness on urban and modern farming techniques. What we're trying to achieve is to impact knowledge and also to create some economic value in the process of running this program.
A fantastic experience, I would say. The women they were very happy, they are still very happy to have this sort of initiative. It's not just giving them money or stipends, it's actually giving them resources that they could use to fend for their families.
What we have here, firstly I'll start with talking about urban farming. Now, what is urban farming? In Nigeria today you have, or globally, you have two sorts of farmers. So you have your urban farmers and your traditional farmers. Now, traditional farmers generally tend to grow more of cash crops. So your maize, sorghum, soya bean, those sorts of crops. Then what you now have is an evolution of a lot of city farmers who are setting up greenhouses, small farm lots within city environments, and you can see that happening globally in a lot of major cities. If you look at Lagos, for example, you have a large population density. So these are some of the major factors: climate change issues, land degradation issues. These are some of the factors that are driving a lot of urbanization and farming in major cities.
I heard about this program through one of our women group known as Ogbonge Women.
I stumbled on in my email box asking me to come for a training in urban farming and to show interest, which I quickly did. And I later found out the invitation was sent by Union Bank.
I'm really happy to be here this morning.
Being here has been a very good opportunity for me because it fits perfectly into the vision of my organization. I got aware of the program through EDA, as they sent the invitation links and enlisted people to participate in this program.
They've all been very excited about the initiative and they've been very hands-on themselves. And it is good to note that women are the backbone of the families. And then the families constitute a nation. So by empowering the women, we are inevitably empowering the families and the nation as a whole.
So at Gardner Callaway, for example, we're big promoters and advocates for urban farming using different types of technologies. So we're going to use our city farm as an illustration to explain some of the different types of technologies that are out there and things that we can use. So for example, to start with this farm, this is a hydroponic farm, and it's a mixture of organic and hydroponic growing. So this farm, for example, if you now start looking at, when you want to set up a farm, the first question you would ask yourself is, how do we design the farm? Now this farm is designed and split into 3 sections. So you have section 1, which starts from the farm walkway. So by being able to grow plants on that section gives us good use of space. So this trellis on its own has about close to 100 plants in a small space radius, as opposed to if you were growing in a traditional setting and you arranged it in a different way, what you would have is you would use more space. Then with regards to the grow bags now, the kind of grow bags that we use, they're called felt grow bags. Now felt grow bags, the reason why we use them Firstly, they have a longer lifespan. So they last for about 5 to 7 years. They're completely permeable, which means that they drain easily. Now what you have a lot of the time, a lot of people use are the plastic bags that have holes underneath. Now the problem with the plastic bags, not that they're not good, they're cheaper, but they don't last as long. They get easily damaged. Sometimes you can get over moisture with the bags, but with the felt bags you don't have that issue. Then the felt bags also have a certain technology attached to it called root pruning. So because they're free and the material, air can pass through it, when plants are growing, the roots tend to gravitate towards the edges of the bag. Then when air hits the roots, what you have is a splitting effect where each root starts to split and that root continues to split in a multiplier effect. So what that does is it gives the plants a larger root density. Now with a larger root density, they can take up more nutrients and grow faster and yield more. So that's why we use these grow bags. Then the grow bags come in different sizes, up to 400 gallons. This on the other hand, this is a 200-gallon grow bag. Now grow bags are completely versatile in the sense that you can also use them to grow almost anything. You can even grow trees if you want in a grow bag. Like this 200-gallon now, if you raise, it's folded now, if you raise this up, this is about 4 feet in height. So if you wanted to even grow yam and segregate it from pests and all those kinds of other issues you have with normal soil growing, you can use these kind of bags to grow that. Other tubers as well. As you see here, we have basil. So in one of these bags now, you can put about 10 to 11, 12 plants in one bag. So another thing the grow bags are good for is they provide a lot of horizontal density as opposed to vertical density. So hydroponics is, they call it soilless growing or growing with acceptable mediums. Now hydroponics is split into different types. You have aquaponics, which is using fish water to give your plants nutrients. So in an aquaponics setup, what you have is you have your fish tanks. The fish pool produce all the nutrients from the feed, the poo from the fish goes into the water. You feed it into your hydroponic system. The plants take up all the nutrients, clean the water recycles back into the fish tanks, and that cycle goes round and round. But you see, those kind of hydroponic systems are perfect for indoor growing because of the way they operate. Then you now have an agroponic setup, which is what we practice, where you use soil mediums. So what we use, for example, is called coco coir, which is made from the skin of coconut. So the reason we use that is because it holds a lot of moisture. It has good moisture retention qualities, good aeration qualities, and it's sterile. So it's a completely organic, clean medium. You don't need to attach anything to it, and it has a balanced pH already that's good for growing. So for example, in the grow bags, we mix coco coir with compost, and treated compost, not manure. You see, because manure, I think there's also a misconception with what is organic and what is not organic. Now most people assume that because you're using manure, it's organic, but not necessarily, because you need to look at what your chickens or your cows or your horses are taking into themselves. So if they're taking antibiotics, other additives, other things that have chemicals, their feed, then automatically that cancels out as not being organic. So that's why we use compost that has been treated. So even compost itself, in the process of making the compost, you have to make sure that it's good quality compost, or you buy your compost from good sources. So once you have good compost, it fosters organic growth. And that's why initially I said we have a hybrid of hydroponics and sort of organic stroke hydroponic farming. So with the grow bags, even though everything is irrigated hydroponically, we mix compost in it. So what that does is we use less strength nutrients to water the grow bag, since they already have nutrition from the compost. And also another thing the compost does is it improves and it breeds worms inside the soil. So the worms also help with aeration of the soil, and the worm droppings also help with extra nutrition added into the soil in addition to the compost. And in talking about horizontal density also, this section we have about 100 of these bags, and on this section I think we should have nothing less than about 500 plants on just these 2 rows, which goes into why it's called urban farming, maximizing your use of space. In these bags as well we have romaine lettuce. In each of the 200-gallon grow bags, I think we have about 15 romaine lettuce plants in just 1 bag, and we have 20 bags on this stretch, which now also increases the density of what we can grow on the farm. So this section is irrigated from this tank. So this tank feeds here, and we just use normal drip irrigation. We use 0.5 gallon per hour emitters as well. So that means that we don't overwater the plants. The irrigation just drops bit by bit until the beds are fully soaked. Then we turn off the irrigation till we see that the plants need watering again. That's why this section is more of sort of organic, so to speak. So just to explain about the hydroponic system. Now this is called a high density vertical system. And it's called a high density vertical system because it takes advantage of space. For example, we call these towers. So this one tower now, so for example, if you're growing lettuce, you will do 24 plants because you will do 1 lettuce per head, per pocket. If you're growing herbs, things like basil, coriander, thyme, arugula, things like that, you can fit 10 plants in 1 pocket. Now, if you're looking at it, you might think, how do 10 plants grow in this small pocket? You see, plants naturally gravitate towards the light. So what happens is that the root structure would grow deep into the roots. Then the plants will grow outwards. So by the time the plants are mature, what you have is the whole pots become completely covered, and you don't even see the pots at all because the plants have grown outwards towards the light. So that's what makes that possible. Now, the way this system is set up, the irrigation irrigates from the top. Each of the pots, they have holes underneath. So it's a recirculatory system as well. So we irrigate each row 2 minutes every hour. So the water just rushes through, goes through one pot to the next, to the next, to the next, and all the excess goes into this, which is called a drain dish, and drains into this pipe all the way back into our irrigation room. Now also, the reason why you can effectively absorb the moisture is because of the cocoa coir we're using, the soil. So cocoa coir, it naturally sucks up moisture through a process called wicking. So wicking just means that once moisture hits it, it absorbs the moisture and it starts to spread across the whole medium. So that's how it's able to effectively water every section of each pot effectively. It's because of the soil. If we're using topsoil or something, for example, we won't be able to get this effect. What would happen is it will just drain down and it won't absorb it. So that's why cocoa coir is one of the best hydroponic mediums or organic grow mediums to use for growing. A lot of people have the misconception that growing is just, you just put soil, put your seeds, add manure, and things just grow. But you couldn't be far from the truth in terms of misconception. But for hydroponics and a lot of urban farming, we tend to use reverse osmosis filters to purify our water. Now, if you look at Lagos, water quality differs from area to area. Like some parts of Epe now, water quality is perfect, some parts of Ikorodu. But because we're in Lekki and our water quality is bad, we had to use a reverse osmosis filter to filter our water. Now this is important because of your pH and your EC levels. Now pH is important in terms of your pH of your soil, but the pH of also your nutrient solution. Now for hydroponics, the pH of your nutrient solution is the most important thing. Because you're already using cocoa coir, your pH is balanced. It's the pH level of your water and your nutrient solution you worry about. Now EC is electrical conductivity. Now EC has to do more with how your plants take up nutrients. You see, because if your EC level is above normal levels, what happens is you start growing, and after maybe 2 or 3 months, you just realize your plants are not growing well because there's too much salts in your soil. So the salts start to block up the roots from taking up the nutrients. So what you now have stunted growth with your plants. So these are just some technical things that assist with your operations and design. So all the filtered water goes into this big 5,000 liter tank here. So this tank is responsible for supplying the different sections across the farm. And it supplies this 3,000 liter tank behind you also, which services this hydroponic section. So what you have here is an irrigation tank. I spoke to you about the system being a recirculatory system. So this is where all the excess comes to, and it automatically goes back into the irrigation tank. Then what you have here is called the nutrient tank. Now the reason for all the different tanks is it's always good to segregate, depending on your setup, to segregate your tanks. So the nutrient tank stores nutrients that are ready for the irrigation tank to take up once all the nutrients in the irrigation tank have been completely exhausted. So how are all these connected, you might ask? We use pumps that have floats attached to them. So for example, when this raises up now, so that would now automatically dump it into here. So the nutrient tank also, there's a little pump in here, a 1/3 horsepower pump that is connected to a float valve in this irrigation tank. So once it gets to a certain level, the irrigation tank will trigger the pump in here to dump more nutrients into here. Now, fertigation setups, there are a million ways to do it. The reason we do this is because we have a 3-part mix of a vegetable formula, potassium and calcium in its raw form. So it's not your processed normal kinds of fertilizers that we use. So this automatically improves the operational efficiency of your setup. And there are different sizes of injectors. It could be small for a small setup. It could be a bigger capacity that can give out maybe 20 gallons per minute, 50 gallons per minute, 100 gallons per minute. It totally depends on the size of your operation. This reduces your labor costs, labor intervention, and it also improves your yields, because then your system is more advanced in the sense that it's precisely being dosed. They grow faster and they tend to yield more. So this is what the fertigation or injector system does. You can program your irrigation to irrigate maybe 3 minutes every hour, 4 minutes every hour. If you have another row that is growing crops that don't like too much moisture, you can program it to do less. So it can be 1 minute, it could be 30 seconds. It's fully customizable. Then also on a large farm, the benefit with the controllers is for a system like this that takes advantage of nature and rain and open air, you can attach a weather sensor where if it's raining, the sensor tells the controller that the plants already have a lot of moisture. It automatically switches off the controller. Because when you come down to costs of some of these things, they're not actually that expensive. And it's a small price, I always say, to pay for long-term efficiency of whatever operation you plan to have. And also, the idea with the whole hydroponic urban farming model is sometimes initially your setup cost might be a bit high, but what you have going forward is your operating expenses are extremely low. So it's a sort of high capex, very low OPEX model, as opposed to a traditional setup where your capital expenditure could be high or medium scale depending on the type of setup you intend to run. But your operating expenditure is also high in terms of high labor costs, higher costs to fix problems due to inefficiencies and problems that come up like that. We have in these bags now, we have coir, compost, then we have some recycled cocoa coir as well. So because we're using grow bags, you can use recycled material, because what would happen is that they will all break down and start to add additional nutrients to it. So that's some of the advantages with using the grow bags. You see, because with the purely hydroponic now, you can recycle, but you can't recycle the same way you can recycle in a grow bag. So basically, once you have your soil gets better over time.
Yes.
Then all you do every now and then is you just top it up and you just remix it.
I just want to give kudos to Heather Resources in partnership with Gardner Callaway and Union Bank. This is a full package.
They have taught me how to manage space. I don't have any barrier. I don't have any excuse. I should be able to use, no matter how small the portion I have is, I should be able to use it and make good profits and also affect my environment positively.
I discovered most of the plants or what they produce here are organically grown. Not only that, and it's more like seeing it live, no chemical.
I was exposed to me minimizing space. I even learned that I don't even need to go to the farm with cutlass and for me to plant something. I learned that yesterday, and I was exposed to different aspects of agriculture down to the technical rooms.
Everything they do here is a perfect example of how food can actually be produced in areas where there are limited space. And yet, they are producing premium herbs, vegetables and spice at the heart of Lagos, which is a very good initiative and what we really need at this moment.
It's said that the average age of a farmer in Nigeria is 70 years old. And that can only attest to why we are struggling, or we've been struggling in this sector. We are trying to encourage the participation of more youth and then women in the space, as such that we can have a more robust output with more participation of young people, and then with the new techniques and technology that we are bringing into the farming process, it will increase output generally, and then cut down on the use of land, water, and the other elements of growing.
Depending on what you're growing, you can customize how you use the aluminate. Like on this section, it's just one layer. Because we're growing kale, and the kale requires more sunlight. But if you go further down, we doubled it because we're growing lettuce. And lettuce requires that temperature to grow properly. So that's how we use the aluminate, and that's the benefit of the aluminate. So your normal shade netting now, it doesn't reflect. All it does is it provides shade, but the aluminate reflects. So that's the major difference. Now we're using it because it reduces temperature. It's coated with aluminium. So what it does is it reflects all the excess heat and radiation from whatever canopy is being covered. But at the same time, it allows for 100% ventilation. It allows for, it protects from pests. It reduces the impact of heavy rain, heavy winds. So when heavy rain falls, for example, even though rain is good for the system, you don't want intense heavy rain hitting your plants too hard. So what you find is a lot of the rain sits on top of it and just allows little bits to go through. So once the rain finishes, the rest of it just evaporates off the top of it. Again, these things are expensive, but we're constantly looking for ways to provide them at a cheaper cost. So and the only way to do that is by us buying them in bulk and having deals with major manufacturers. So those are some of the things that we've been working on, so that other people can benefit from using some of these inputs to help them grow.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity, and I'd like to say a very big thank you to Gardner Callaway and of course Union Bank. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been amazing, and thumbs up. Thank you.
I want to really appreciate the collaboration and the partnership of Eder Resources. I understand it's the NGO that actually scrutinized and selected women entrepreneurs, and of course Gardner Callaway that have opened up their resources and they want to train us for the next 12 months. That's big. And then of course their financial partner, which is Union Bank. I want to say big kudos to Union Bank for doing that. Thank you so much, all these partners.
Yeah, and I want to say a very big thank you to Gardner Callaway, Eder and Union Bank. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. We appreciate it, and we also pray that the Lord, the good God, will keep your hands going and your flags flying. Thank you.
My sincere appreciation, because I'm so much excited to be here, goes to Union Bank and to Gardner Callaway. So thank you.
So I want to say a very big thank you, very big thank you to Union Bank, to Eder, and to Gardner Callaway. I say God will bless them, will lift them higher and higher, and I pray that more of this will happen in our country, in our state, by the grace of God. And farming business, will go places that will begin to export food items to other countries, by the grace of God.
I want to thank the management of Union Bank for their support, for the foresight that they have to come behind this initiative, and to say that I hope that we are able to get maximum impact and reach from this initiative, as such that this will be the beginning of many more to follow. And I also want to appreciate our partners, Eder, the Human Environmental Development Agenda, for enlisting the participants and for supporting the initiative in their capacity. I believe with these little tiny efforts, we can all contribute into this sector and make it more robust and profitable for everybody, for all concerns.
Thank you.